All right, so I'm going to give you an overview on your assignment that says 315 to 318, begin brainstorming about a shelf. So your second project is a shelf project. So you are going to begin by brainstorming, and you are going to use the slideshow that I have here that's blank called Shelf Inspiration. Each of you should have received a copy of that. The basic guidelines for the project is you do need to use the CNC machine. Your project should not be any larger than 3 feet or 36 inches in any direction. And we want to consider the level of difficulty. So not something that's too easy and not something that's too hard. So together, you and I will kind of determine what that difficulty level is going to be. It's going to be different for each student. So we are going to take just a quick moment to take a look at this video. There is audio in it, but the audio is immaterial. And I will pause some as we're taking a look at this video. So I want you to think about where you are going to place this shelf. You don't want to make something that you don't really have a purpose for, or you don't know where you're going to put it. So try to think about the where, whether it's in your room, in a closet, if it's in a garage, if it's in a shed, depending on what the possibilities might be. You really do want to think then about, stop there. There we go. You guys will have options of how you want to personalize it. So you can see in this particular example, the student was a baseball player. Not only did they put a bat in their name, they put hooks, but they also put a baseball in the middle. Their brackets are also baseballs. I think later in the presentation you see that. You will want to think about the overall dimensions of the size of your shelf. So at one point in time, as we're planning this, you are going to need to put some numbers on your project so we can see the size that we're going to be referencing. So here's just another idea of how the student was personalizing their project. This particular one did not get finished. That's why the sides weren't stained. The student didn't have a chance to stain them in class. But he had the Chevelle SS in the center, 71 in the middle for the year, and then he had a gun rack built on the bottom of it. So this particular one, they did a dark stain, very traditional last name, an L-shaped bracket, but they left space between the top and the backboard. They didn't close that gap. They did leave that spacing. So of course, as we're going through this project, we will need to review safety. So you should be coming up with a project that will require you to use most of the tools. And of course, you are going to need to use them accurately. You can see here's another example of the brackets that were CNC'd and the backboard was CNC'd. Here's another, okay, so this one does have the baseball stitching and the student number, player number in, and he also put baseballs on top. So again, these are the tools that we went through so far this semester that we should be encouraged to use again. We will use screws for our assembly method, and we will also talk about countersinking. So as we've been going through our current project, we are using nails, and we set them, and we will put putty in them. When you're using a screw, you will want to countersink your screw, set it below the surface, and then you will make a plug out of wood, and you will plug it so you don't, the goal is not to know that the assembly method. So this student chose to put a small ledge on the front. They were going to put some pictures up there that they didn't want to slide off. Just another example. So this student had a grandmother that was a cancer survivor. So he did use ribbons for the side brackets as well as CNC'd information on the center. The student chose to use horns that were ultimately hoping to hold an old shotgun that he had, and he CNC'd on the top. So as you're beginning the planning stages of your project, this is kind of the process that you are going to go through. So I want you to think about what type of items might you CNC on your project, what type of shelves do you like, So these were different inspiration images that the student had. And then ultimately, you are going to come up with something similar to this, kind of explaining the size of your shelf. And this is just in your planning stages, okay? This is what you should have completed on your shelf project by the end or by the close of the day on Thursday. So by Thursday, 11:59 is when this is due, okay? So whether you guys use some of your home time on Wednesday to work on that, whether you use some class time if you have it, there is still an additional assignment for Wednesday for both in-class students and EDGE students, but this is a project that you should be thinking about throughout the week. So any general questions on this project as of now? If you have questions, make sure you ask me in class or reach out via email.